Hello. Today I'm going to tie for you a little black stonefly nymph. It's got only a few materials, relatively easy to tie even in the small sizes, and those guys there are why I'm making this fly. And I'll talk more about that once we get into it. I'm going to tie this on a size 18 TMC 200R. Oops, the R is not on this one. I'm going to use Biots for the antenna and the tails, but there are other options, moose hair. We're going to hold it together with Uni-Thread in black. I'm going to use the 3/0 Superfly thread for a rib. There's some black dubbing and a little black feather that I'm going to steal from this pheasant skin. And we've got that hook in the vise, and we'll start the thread. Leave a little room up front just to remind me not to crowd the eye. And while we're wrapping here, I'll talk a little more about that. So it's February here in Pennsylvania. We got some decent weather, and I got out on the stream a few days ago. And odd for the middle of February, I felt a bug crawling on my neck, and then one on my ear, and then another one. And somehow I ended up in a swarm of little black stoneflies that had hatched probably a day or two earlier, maybe earlier that day. And they were about size 18. They were adults, and the fish had no interest in them whatsoever, and they weren't hovering above water laying eggs or anything like that. But I found those nymphs in the shallows and thought maybe they would make an interesting offering. So I came home and I made these. I didn't have anything exactly something like that in my box. I've done um, things with thin rubber and beads and other types of stone flies, but I thought I'd try and make something a little more realistic, but yet keep it simple. And I think that's the goal of every fly tyer who's also an avid fisherman is to make really cool flies, but also when you go to fill the box and you want to catch fish, you got to do something that you don't mind losing them and you don't mind when the fish chew on them. And yet they still have to be effective. So here we are. We have the biots tied in. Um, I wrapped all the way the back to the end of the shank and worked my way back to the point and tied in up there. A little trick there is to put a wrap all the way around before you pull it tight against these biots. That kind of works for me and helps me to keep the biots in place and not twist them around the hook when I pull tight. I folded back that, or attached and folded back that loop of 3/0 black thread, and I'm going to use that for a rib and to kind of enhance the body. And here I'm just trying to make a nice level body, maybe with a little bit of a taper. And I think I kept seeing low spots, so I went back and forth a couple extra times. And one wind of thread and see if it flattens out. It wasn't quite enough. I heard in a video the other day we used the terms clockwise and um, anti-clockwise if you're from England. But what if everybody, all these kids today use digital watches, if that? And I wonder if anybody's going to know what clockwise is. I think that was Cheech. I think that was Flyfish Food that said that in the video. Anyways, here we are with that loop of thread. And just off camera, and I'll bring it in so you can take a look. But I'm using just a shepherd's hook, and I'm going to spin that up till it makes a nice kind of a firm rope. And I have the thread over the bobbin holder, bobbin cradle, and apparently my camera was not set to lock the focus, and I apologize for that. So I don't want to go back and refilm that. I'm hoping you're catching the point here, and please put up with that. I'll fix it. So there we made a nice even wrap toward the front. So far we've just got a couple of biots and some thread. So the fly is going to be durable and it's easy to tie. We'll snip off the excess. Now I'm going to go ahead and whip finish that so nothing comes loose. I'm going to get the thread out of the way and add some head cement. Kind of seal things in place. I don't know that you have to lacquer the body. I just felt like that rib might move around a little bit, and I thought the Sally Hansons would keep it from doing that. So fiddle around with the needle and make sure that the bodkin, make sure it gets we're coated all the way around. And we'll give it a second to dry and come back. So here we are. I think it's time to tie in the antenna. And so I said I was going to talk about substitutes. So I made a couple of these with, so I'm going to cross the, I don't want to, here I'm jumped around a little bit, but I crossed the biots on top. This is an easy way to set the length, to tie those in, and to not block the eye of the hook. So while I'm doing that, I'll talk about, I did a couple of these with moose hair. You could use bristles from a little paintbrush, um, hackle fibers, you name it, for the tails and antennas on these. Those are little and hair-like, and I just thought the biots might be pretty straightforward and easy to work with. So that's where I kind of landed for this version I filmed. And it's not like I tied a dozen of these and then got really good and then filmed it. I made two of the other ones with the hair and the hackle fibers, and then went to the biots, and this is the one I liked. And actually I decided to film it before I knew if I was going to like it or not. But so here's that dubbing. It's a kind of a mixture of some it's got some rabbit fur mixed in. It's got a little antron and a little bit of flashy material that can be pulled out to be a little spiky. And all we're shooting for here is just a little bigger thorax. So get up behind the eye and work my way back, maybe a good third, almost to halfway. And then I'm going to park my thread right in the middle of that thorax. And there's only one last material to go in. And it's going to be that little feather from way up by the neck of that pheasant skin. And there I've kind of peeled away the extra fibers. You see it's got that dark purple black look and a little brown in front of it. And what I'm doing here, and I'll tell you why, is I'm going to get a couple of wraps on. I'm going to pull it up to length. And originally I was going to lacquer that and make it look like that triangle wing. But then after experimentation, I kind of like it when it flares out. So it'll flare up and then out to each side. And it's more, the term they use for this is in the round, so that the fly will look like, the profile would look like the fly from any direction. This isn't quite in the round, but it does imitate, from this side view, you see a little bit of that triangle shape. And then from the top or the bottom, it's going to look like, you know, that triangle shape. So this is what I'm going to go with. Now, normally I tell you, I caught a bunch of fish on these and whatever, but I really haven't. I haven't fished this pattern yet, but I think it's going to work as well as anything else. I put a good drop of Sally Hanson's on top. We'll let that soak in and dry, and that's the fly. You could brush it out a little bit, make it look a little more leggy, but these are the things that were crawling around, and I'm going to give it a shot. So thanks for hanging in there. If you want to learn more about me, look me up on Amazon.com. And until next time, be safe.